This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where it's all about getting the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. Brought to you by Itamar Shafir, founder and CEO of Umbrella, the technology platform and brand that is powering thousands of marketing agencies around the country. Find him at umbrellaus.com. Now, here's your host, Kevin Prewett.
This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, and I am Kevin Prewett, the host, and I have a very special guest with me today. He's a former digital agency owner and has the battle scars to prove it. He's worked with notable brands such as Bluetooth, T-Mobile, and Scantron, and built his agency from just himself to a team of 12. After selling his agency, he decided to take his passion for sales and proposal writing and create Smart Pricing Table, interactive proposal software that cuts down on the back and forth, incorporates upsells, and helps generate proposals at lightning speed. Please join me in welcoming a very special guest, Joe Ardeeser, to the Marketing Umbrella Podcast. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Kevin. I'm excited to be here and excited to jump in.
So I like to start every podcast to lay a good foundation. So, bios are short, sweet, and probably leave so much out. So what did we not include in your bio or your intro to kind of round out a little bit of who Joe is?
Yeah. Well, I love systems, Kevin. I remember from early age, being a young boy, and even putting together Halloween treats with my grandmother. I assembly lined everything out. Bag,
of course you did.
Candy, and it really is it's a kind of my signature. I just love optimizing the heck out of things. So
it's an interesting journey always that we love to give the guest a chance to kind of share. So nobody wakes up and just decides, hey, I'm going to create this SaaS called Smart Pricing Table here. So how did you arrive at that out of, say, the agency space you were in?
Yeah, well, I was, I learned sales in my agency. I actually probably 10 years ago couldn't define the difference between marketing and sales, which is embarrassing now. But learned sales, grew up as a salesperson in my my business, and about 6 years ago, I had been using one of the big box providers for proposal software, and I just didn't like how hard it was to create a scope of work. Right. Most of what would change in our proposals was the service and the price. And so we created what is now called Smart Pricing Table for our own agency to overcome the challenges that we saw. And I just found our customers loved it. We did such great, we landed lots of work with it. I even closed Bluetooth.com with the tool.
Wow.
And about a year and a half ago, I decided I've got to take this to the market. I've wanted to do it. And I had sold my agency and had the mind space for it.
So the idea that, it's so often like an entrepreneur is kind of scratching his own itch, so to speak. So you built something internally, and then you just saw that it had legs and had a broader application than just internal.
Yeah. And I really wanted to answer the question, this was so huge for us. We could make proposals quickly. We didn't go over budget nearly as much. Things were clear. It was enjoyable. And the question was, would other agencies find it useful? And a year and a half in, I'm so pleased with how well we've been able to serve other agencies. Most agencies that do a demo just love it because we really struck a chord, and that's my main market. I work mostly with marketing agencies.
So before we kind of dive a little deeper into the Smart Pricing Table and its application, I was hosting another podcast, and I was talking to a business consultant. And the one thing he said to me was, and he said it to me at other times because we've actually had conversations offline, but he said, we stopped doing proposals. And I said, so how do you get in the game, if you're not doing proposals? So his reasoning was, it's like you're competing, just on paper with so many others, and there are other ways to kind of work around that. But it actually is still a major part of sales and connecting with potential clients. So what would you say kind of as the counterpoint of this idea?
Yeah, I definitely hear that. And I think it comes from a point of frustration. All this work you put into proposal, and then your prospect just ghosts you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So the thing is, I still need to outline my services, and I still have to have a price.
Exactly.
Call it a scope of work kind of post, conversations, but you still need something, or you're agreeing to a big vague mess.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I would say one of the big things that I would say though is I agree with some of the kind of the idea behind that, but where proposals can really be a game changer is if you review the proposal with your prospect on a follow-up meeting. So I can share this now or in a little bit, but I was a big proponent of the proposal review meeting, and it was you'd schedule that at the discovery call. And they wouldn't get the proposal until after that meeting. So I think that's really huge. It limits your exposure to needless, unprofitable work, and it's really high engagement with your prospect.
I love that idea, because I mean, how often do people just shoot stuff in an email and just kind of let it lie, So, and that's obviously, that didn't just come about. That's probably a lesson learned, over time. You thought, hey, there's a better way to do this.
Yeah. And a shout out to Jason Swank. He's an agency coach. And his big thing is don't just chuck proposals over the fence. I subscribed to him, some of his stuff back when I owned my agency, and that's where I learned it. And it's so true. We stopped doing needless proposals. And it also, if someone's not willing to schedule, say, a 20-minute proposal review meeting with you, you kind of have to ask the question, how serious are you with me? Right? Like, if I'm going to put 30 to 60 minutes minimum into this, I want to know that I have an opportunity to sell the proposal, not just give it to them.
And I mean, how accessible might they be if you run into issues, once you're working with them, once you kind of close the deal, for sure. I love that. I am curious about, let's kind of talk a little bit about your time at running an agency and how the transition actually occurred. Was this one of these, I'm going to run this as a side gig until it kind of overtakes my agency income, or you say, hey, we're burning the boats, we're all in?
Yeah, well, I was kind of in a typical situation that I think a lot of agency owners have with kind of a hobby or a side project. We wanted to do it for years, but we just never could, because a big project would land and it's all hands on deck. And so actually, I ended up selling my agency. I had relocated for some education options for my kids. I sold the agency, did corporate for a year, thought, what the heck am I doing? Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I've always been one. And so when I started Smart Pricing Table, it was 100% full-time, always has been. And I think that makes such a huge difference. So hard to do two things well at once, if even possible.
Yeah. And it sounds like to me that I love this. You had this self-actualization that said, I'm unemployable. Why I wouldn't hire me? Why am I working for them?
Note to self agency owners, it's very hard to get a job, because employers are like, I don't know, you might want to take control.
Yes, no doubt.
Sure about you.
No doubt. There's a friend of mine that runs an agency called Rogue Marketing, and I'm thinking, boy, that is very apropos, because if you hired him, he would be a rogue in your midst. There is no doubt.
Yeah, we like different rules. Yeah.
So let's talk about the product itself. So give me the elevator pitch of Smart Pricing Table.
Yeah, well, Smart Pricing Table is interactive proposal software built for agencies. I would expand that banner to professional services companies, but mostly marketing and digital agencies. And I think one thing that really drives my passion for the product is really the underlying philosophy. So actually, kind of to start this off, one of the big concepts that I love is the idea of productitizing your offering. Okay. So most service-based companies, marketing agencies, included, and maybe especially, we tend to think of our offering as just some text we put in a proposal, right? But what if you thought of, we're not product companies, but what if you thought of your offering more like a product, and you put a fence around that specific offering with some, limitations, what's included, etc.
Yep.
All of a sudden, when you go to create a proposal, you're not mentally frazzled, no writer's block, no searching through 10 proposals ago, trying to find a specific text, but you're taking line items that you've previously built, and it's more like proposal writing becomes more like putting Legos together and then tweaking each Lego for your prospect. That's the big idea with Smart Pricing Table. Where we excel, where we're different from the rest of the market, is a reusable line item library and quick assembly for proposals.
So I'm going to show my ignorance here by saying that sounds like a PDF template. So
sure.
what's the add-on? What's the USP of your product? And I don't mean that critically. I mean that just as for clarification purposes.
Yeah. Well, so with Smart Pricing Table, you have an account and you have a template. You have a library of templates. So actual proposal templates like web design job or a branding job or something like that. And then you have line items. Okay. Right. And the reason why it's way different than a PDF is, one, there's e-signatures, but also the proposal is interactive. Okay. So let's say that you're selling social media management. I'm going to manage a Facebook page. In our system, you might see that it describes that service, but it could maybe be optional. But then there could also be, and this is key, Kevin, upsells inside of line items.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. What if?
Sorry, we left PDF world right there.
Yeah. What if you could say things like, actually, let me kind of scope out how I typically do line items.
Yeah.
You interrupt me if I get questions here, but I think of a line item. Let's go back to the social media management. Kevin, I'm going to manage your social media, your Facebook page. Okay. And in my proposal, there's a line item that says Facebook management. How I suggest to my customers to do this is start with a summary sentence. Okay. What's the big idea of the offering? I'm going to manage your Facebook page, et cetera, et cetera. Then I say work included and put a bulleted list.
Yep.
Okay? The bulleted list format's great because it's easy for your prospect to scan and you enjoy it, right? Kevin, thinking about your business is exciting, right?
Yep.
So I'm scoping this out and I'm breaking it down into smaller pieces. It also helps me price it better. If I've broken it down, I can add up the level of effort for each bullet point and price accurately. Okay. Then you follow that with any limitations and then upsells. Okay. So an example you might have in the bulleted to make this really specific. Maybe you say, I'm going to manage your Facebook page. That's 4 posts per month. I'm not going to manage your comments and a couple other notes. The upsell might be manage comments. So a lot of times, like when business owners say, you're going to manage my social media page, they don't realize like that doesn't include interacting with comments.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But you need to charge for that because that takes freaking time.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. Yeah.
So
and you're going to learn how to speak in their voice.
Yeah, that's true. And so you don't think about, if you're just throwing proposals out and you're not thinking through individual line items and offerings and what's entailed in this, you can miss that, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you charge an extra $250. So maybe it's $1,500 a month, but it's $250 a month for up to 50 comment engagements. And you can do 51, you can do 55, but the point is you're outlining the spirit of the work. Okay.
Right.
And then you can have another upsell that says additional posts. They turn that on. And maybe there's a quantity with that upsell, and they say they can choose how many additional posts at, say, $250 per post per month. That is what I mean when I say productize your offering. When you stop and you say, I'm going to slow down to speed up, and you productize your offering, oh my word, proposal writing is fun. No joke. It's actually enjoyable because you're just building parts you've already thought about.
And I think you really are setting kind of a scope of work in a very clear manner. So the prospect, the client knows exactly what they're getting. Yeah. There's no back and forth. Did that include this? Actually, is it on the list? It either is or it isn't,
right.
It either included or not. So,
right.
This is like the $1 million question here. So how do you see AI. How do you see Chat GPT 5, 6, 12, whatever the next iteration is? How do you see that impacting, the space that Smart Pricing Table works in?
Yeah, well, I think actually, it's funny. I actually have some sample proposals on our website. I have a branding proposal that Chat GPT wrote entirely. Now I copied and pasted it, so we don't have an integration quite like that, but it's not that far. It's relatively easy to bridge that gap. But it really helped me think through the offering. If you're an agency and you haven't done something before, but you think it's limited risk and you want to scope it out, Chat GPT can help you think through, like, what are some of the things I should be thinking about that I haven't learned yet from eating concrete, right?
Exactly.
What are some of those things? And it can really help. And then also I'll ask it, like, what are some upsells for social media management or cold email campaign? What are some of the things? You could also say, what are some of the things I might not be thinking about, or things that could lead to scope creep? And of course, in all of this, eventually you say, okay, can you write that out for me?
Yes.
Right? Copy and paste it into a line item library in our system or in another system, and you've really potentially saved yourself a lot of pain.
And you see it. I mean, you're speaking in terms of integration, instead of replacement. So, right. I mean, I like the way that you're kind of looking at this, certainly optimistically and like just hopeful. It says, hey, we can use this tool. It's not like the big robot come to get us.
I think we're all kind of on edge a little bit, like, what's going to happen? Like, tomorrow will I be able to say, Chat GPT, make Smart Pricing Table competitor snazzy pricing table and build it and market it like,
it's $5 a year. That's right.
I think even with robots, we're still going to have to pitch things to people.
Yes.
And so proposal software has a valuable role in society.
I like that. Even with robots, we're going to have to pitch to people. That is a quote. We're going to have to extract that one from the interview and put that on a card. But
there you go.
How do you help people overcome their biggest obstacles when they're creating proposals? What do you see as the biggest obstacle to an agency owner trying to create one?
Yeah, well, I think some of these I've kind of intertwined between the idea of productizing your offering. But I would say scope creep comes from vagueness. So I call that the vague vortex. That can cause all sorts of problems. I think when you don't have a solid offering and you haven't thought through this, you can do bad pricing. Because you haven't thought through things. Turnaround time for proposals takes a lot longer. I mean, I can't tell you if there's one of the things that's, if you can fix this, it just makes such a huge impact, is respond to new leads quickly, even if it's an autoresponder, but better, I got your message, I'm going to respond to you as quick as I can, that kind of stuff. Huge. But then also imagine if you could create a proposal same day or the next day. And what keeps us from creating proposals is we get in this foggy area because we think it's going to be so much work. Right. And so we procrastinate, and every day that goes by, it affects your ability to close that deal, because they're having, if they're not talking to you, who are they talking to? Right.
Or even if they are talking to you, they're probably talking to somebody else too. So that may beat you to it.
So productizing your offering, I think, solves a myriad of so many other issues. And I also I like to say, I actually have on my website, I have a profitable proposal blueprint, and I outline 5 key principles for doing solid proposals. The 5th one is continuous improvement. And so the idea with this is you're always taking your learnings and you're building them back into your system. You're codifying them. So for instance, if I decided that commenting on people's managing their comments on the post for the social media setup is too much, or I'm not charging enough, or I just don't even want to offer it, go back to the template, go back to the line item and fix it, right? so many people, it's just, you would do that, but you don't have the base system. You don't have like the setup where you can go back to the repository and you can make those tweaks.
Yeah, it is. It's on some document that I lost in my last hard drive that I switched 2 Macs ago. You know, so yeah, it's
right.
There it is.
And newsflash, Google Docs, a Word, they're not proposal software. So they don't have proposal features like what things they engaged with on the proposal, the line items they looked at, the boxes they checked. You know, none of that, e-signatures, like none of that's there.
Right.
That's actually my first point in that that free guide that I give out.
I imagine the aesthetics are slightly different with a Google Doc than they are with Smart Pricing Table too. When you're you know, comparing 2 proposals side by side, you're thinking, this one looks like you did it in the dark, and this one looks like you actually know what you're doing. So that alone could be the differentiator.
Yeah, and not having to even not having to throw it into DocuSign when you're done. I mean, all these things, like I look at business as kind of like a cavern. The cavern is dark, and there's all these cracks and crevices, and you haven't explored this area, but eventually you get to it, right? And you see the detail, and you're like, oh my goodness. And oh, wow, there's actually a whole room back there. I had no freaking clue, right? And the longer you're in business, the more you explore the cave, the more systems that you build. And for so many people, they just haven't thought of their proposal process as a system. Right. But once you get in there, it can really pay dividends.
So once that that proposal is launched, once you have shipped it to your potential client, how do you maximize its receptivity, or what's the added value after that? I mean, how do you increase your likelihood of acceptance?
Yeah. So the first thing, and I touched on this earlier, I'll kind of elaborate a bit more. If you're not doing proposal review meetings, you need to pause and put that as a something to think about. Okay. So here's the idea with a proposal review meeting. I'm having my initial discovery call, and I say at the end, Kevin, thanks for downloading all that. I've got a good view of what you need. The next step in our process is to schedule a 20-minute proposal review meeting, and where I'll show you what I come up with. Okay. I don't ask Kevin if he wants to do that. I simply say it's part of the process. I said magical words that make it seem like it's in concrete. And so most of the time they just agree to it. Okay.
Right move.
If they don't, start asking questions, right?
Yep.
The attendance rate on the meeting is extremely high because number one, you have something they want. They want to be able to compare prices. And two, they don't get the proposal until afterwards, right? I'm at least going to go to the meeting and hear a spiel, right?
Yep.
The value in the meeting is I'm not just giving you my proposal, but I'm actually selling it. Kevin, here's why I put it up. Here's kind of some things I included. By the way, make sure to check this out. I just had, oh my word, we just worked with a customer on this. Killed it. Consider doing cold outreach too. I put a few options in here that you may want to consider. No pressure. And then the cool thing is you can overcome objections. You can, with Smart Pricing Table, if you're using our platform, you can actually check boxes with them, lock in the price, like end the meeting with like a solid proposal. You could even initiate signatures if you wanted to. The amount of interaction that you get with your prospect on that meeting, you'll never get that with just them and the proposal. They might not even.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And that makes absolute sense. I mean, how you describe that, and just the, the downside of emails back and forth is it's a monologue. It's not a dialogue, and it's very difficult to address specific objections and really ask clarifying questions and say, hey, am I actually addressing what you just asked?
Right.
Or what the concerns you just had, and you can do it in real time. But I'm curious about the integration. Like, proposals are not standalone. They are integrated within the kind of the whole sales process. So how does Smart Pricing Table integrate with like CRMs or, other components in the sales process itself, or are some of those built into it?
Yeah, so we are our next big item actually is integration. So we're pre-integration. we're a year and a half in. We've got all of the main feature set vision that I had set
Right.
up. On the roadmap, we're going to be working on a Zapier integration or a Zapier.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to do native integrations for Stripe, for QuickBooks, so on the payment side, and then also on HubSpot and probably maybe Salesforce, a couple other big ones.
Yeah.
The cool thing is when you have a SaaS product that's geared towards a certain vertical, like digital agencies like we do, it's really easy to have a roadmap because I know what digital agencies want. It's mostly what I've described. And so we'll get there soon. We don't have those yet, but you can always you can link in the CRM. You can get a link to the proposal, and then payment. There's some simple solutions to expedite that a little bit quicker too.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like to me that you're kind of drinking your own Kool-Aid here. So you're saying that point number 5, that continuous improvement, that's not just to be built into proposals. That's also how you operate. You're operating with feedback. You're operating with the continual testing and improvement mindset as well.
And one of the things I love too, Kevin, is I could outsource doing demos, and I do a free trial kickoff call. It's a concierge service with all new customers that we get. And I'm not going to let go of that anytime soon because I love talking to the customer.
Yeah.
I want to hear how they're interacting. And we'll take those, all those meetings that we have, and we're constantly realigning our roadmap so that we're providing the most value. Definitely the same idea though, continuous improvement. I just recently went camping, and I like that analogy. You go camping, and you see all the things that you forgot, and the things about the campground you didn't know about. And the idea is you fill the gaps, make some plans, go again. Fill the gaps, make some more plans, go again. And eventually your kids are just like, man, Dad, are we going camping again? I can't wait till we're on the road.
That is exactly right. That's a good analogy because it is a learned behavior, analogy that says, hey, we are responsive. We're responsively adapted to, what our clients are asking for. But tell me, let's get very granular here. Tell me, smart pricing table integrating with agencies, other than just the proposal, what's the differentiator there? I mean, is it your background? Is it your experience? Is it your know-how? What is the real marriage, between these two that describe that for our audience?
Yeah. Well, I think as I mentioned earlier, the philosophy, right? I so much of this was me for 4 years, getting up, falling down, trying again over and over, trying to figure out the features we wanted. I had a 4-year head start when I actually brought this to the market. So I think the philosophy and what undergirds all of it, the vision, is really important. And it's very much aligned with digital agencies. I'd say the other thing would be, again, my market focus. I love specialty bread products. I love specialty beers. We live in a world where you can be hyper focused on something. I love the saying, there's riches in the niches, right? And so I'm sure we'll expand at some point, but I love agencies. I can talk to any agency owner and connect, and I can give them insightful stuff on our tool. Most of the time when you're signing up for a SaaS product, you don't have, specific knowledge of your industry.
Right.
And I'd say the third thing that really is different from us is that concierge kickoff call.
Yep.
If any of your listeners are interested in a demo, one of the things to know that you get is with our free trial, I do a 30 to 60 minute kickoff call where I'll actually help you build some line items, right? And because I've been through it and I know the different types of things that agencies will sell, I have lots of different ideas, and that really surfaces a lot of questions as well.
Well, we are going to get a chance to kind of circle back at the end of our chat here, but I'm going to segue a little bit into kind of our rapid fire.
Sure.
If you read the prep, and this is when you're like, oh, what's he going to ask me? Well, these are disparate questions in your mind, but they make perfect sense to us, and there's a method to the madness as we're asking these. But
Okay, and am I doing rapid fire responses?
Rapid fire responses, just
cute,
one.
short
Yeah,
answer.
real quick, short. Yes, no, don't,
Okay.
no thinking aloud here. So, did you get along with your parents growing up?
I was raised by my grandparents. I was actually a foster kid. Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
One sister.
You currently have a pet?
I have a dog. He's a hound, and he's awesome and destroys stuff.
Kids?
3 boys. Our house is getting destroyed too.
With the hound and the boys. That's right.
Oh yeah, they didn't have enough.
No chance. That's right. What time do you wake up every morning?
About 5:20.
And
even during the summer.
Go to bed?
10 o'clock.
Your ideal vacation spot. Money, not an object.
Oh, that's hard. Camping, because I don't want to invest. But I would say camping out in the wide open outdoors.
Well, you're a professional camper now, so I mean,
we're getting there.
You built that. You built that runway. So, how does faith affect your work?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm a Christian believer, and it's actually a huge thing for me. I believe that God created an amazing world, and I want to do the best I can with the life that He gave me.
So you're king for a day in the marketing world. What is one thing that you would like to change about the marketing space today?
Oh, is that a rapid fire one? That's a big question.
Yeah, with short rapid fire answer.
I would just say I think people should write better proposals.
That was a great plant to end their time here. So yeah, you didn't even pay me for that question. I just lined it up, teed it up for you, and
yep,
400 yards right down the fairway. So, what is one thing that I haven't asked you about that you would just like you think is germane to our chat today that would maybe help marketing agency owners as they're listening to this? Something just a kind of a takeaway here. To kind of wrap a bow around it, and then tell people where the best place to find you, how to interact with you moving forward. Yeah,
I would say I love this quote. I heard this a while ago, and I'm beating a dead horse a bit, but I heard this from Dan Martell. I think he got it from somewhere else. Winners and losers both have goals. Okay? They all have goals. Everyone has goals, right? Aspirations. I can dream about anything. Systems help you achieve the goals. You need to actually have a written plan on how you're going to do something. Number of calls per day, number of objectives, or how we're going to do this project. Your system is integral. And so at risk of overdoing that, I just think it's so vital. It helped me run my agency at only 5 hours of crucial work a week when I sold.
That's amazing.
Folks can find me at smartpricingtable.com. As I mentioned, I do demos. I like to show the product because there's just a lot there. And so I like to do personalized demos. I also have a free guide, the Profitable Proposal Blueprint that I mentioned. Download that. There's a lot of the tips in here. Like if you want to learn how the proposal review meeting works, I get into a good amount of detail, I believe, in that document. But if you're interested in the idea of productizing your offering and you're really curious, schedule a demo with me. Even if it's tire kicking, that's fine. If you like the idea and you want to see how if Smart Pricing Table could be a win, reach out. About 90% of my agency demos are interested in a free trial. So really struck a chord with agencies. I love you people, and I'd love to talk more on a quick call.
Well, that sounds good. That guide is available on the website.
Yes, as it says free guide, you can download that, and there's a demo button right on the top right.
Okay, all right. We'll make sure that those are also in the show notes. And Joe, I just want to thank you again for just taking time to come on the show today and just sharing your expertise and really creating great content for just the marketing space as a whole, but really feeding into and really supporting agency owners as they're trying to grow and scale their marketing agencies. Joe, thank you again, and have a great day.
Thanks, Kevin. Enjoyed it.
Thank you for tuning in to another great episode of the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where we provide the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. To learn more, go to umbrellaus.com.